All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome back to The Explainer, where today we're going on a really fast-paced, kind of mind-blowing journey through the immediate tech disruptions hitting us by 2026. If you've been skimming the headlines lately, you know that technology isn't just evolving linearly anymore, it's converging. Today we're unpacking a massive wave of disruption that spans three totally different sectors: how we secure our digital lives, how we physically power our devices, and how we are quite literally going to interface with a new mixed reality. It is an absolutely fascinating time to be watching the tech space, and I'm super excited to guide you through this today.
$2,089 billion and some change. I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. That staggering figure is the projected market value of spatial computing by the year 2034. It really tells us we're standing on the edge of a complete paradigm shift in the global tech landscape. But, a multi-trillion-dollar future like that doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It requires ironclad digital security to protect it and entirely new physical power sources to actually run it. So, to understand exactly how we get there, here's our roadmap. Number 1, the cyber arms race, looking at the incredible escalation of AI-driven threats and defenses. Number 2, new solid-state battery rules coming this July that are completely upending the industry. Number 3, the spatial computing boom, to see what's driving that mass valuation. And finally, number 4, navigating the tech horizon. All right, starting off with part 1, the cyber arms race, basically how we protect ourselves. Google Cloud just dropped their cybersecurity forecast for 2026. And wow, the digital battlefield is moving faster than ever. They've identified 4 massive threat vectors shaping our immediate future. First up is the AI arms race, where attackers are heavily using artificial intelligence to dramatically scale up the speed and scope of their hits. Second is modern extortion. Things like ransomware and data theft are still huge, but attackers are getting incredibly sophisticated now, using advanced tactics to totally bypass multi-factor authentication. Then we've got the virtualization frontline, which is becoming this massive blind spot as hackers increasingly target virtual infrastructure. And finally, nation-state strategies, with actors from places like Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea executing these really complex, long-term cyber objectives. This isn't just theoretical stuff. This is the reality of the threat landscape right now. So, how on earth do you fight back when the attacks are literally automated by artificial intelligence? Well, the answer is what the industry is calling an agentic SOC, or Security Operations Center. Basically, defenders are now harnessing their own AI agents to supercharge their security ops. It's no longer just humans sitting at desks fighting hackers. The future of everyday security is a direct AI versus AI arms race. If the bad guys are using AI to move at machine speed, defenders have absolutely no choice but to do the exact same thing, just to keep up. But of course, running all these advanced AI agents requires heavy-duty hardware, and that hardware requires serious power. Which brings us to Section 2, new solid-state battery rules, or how we're actually going to power our next-gen devices. There is a massive regulatory shakeup hitting the battery sector on July 1st, 2026, and it's a real game changer. For years, the battery market has basically been a wild west of marketing buzzwords. Companies were throwing around terms like semi-solid and quasi-solid to make their batteries sound way more futuristic than they actually were. But new national standards are putting a hard stop to that conceptual chaos. They are establishing strict liquid electrolyte thresholds. So if it's over 20% liquid, it's just a standard liquid battery. Between 5 and 20%, that's a hybrid. To legally call a battery all solid state, it must have less than 5% liquid electrolyte. The era of vague pseudo-solid claims is officially over. All of this is codified in the world's first national standard for solid-state vehicle batteries. It's called GB/T43568-2026. This standard is a huge industry-wide initiative to basically sift the false claims from the true breakthroughs. It was spearheaded by the National Automotive Standardization Technical Committee and, like I mentioned, it becomes mandatory this July. It's perfectly designed to bring unified security and performance thresholds to a market that desperately needed some adult supervision. But here is the wild part, and why this really matters to the broader market: 30%. That is the estimated chunk of small and medium-sized battery enterprises that could be entirely wiped out by this new regulation. There's no getting around these hard indicators now. You have to prove a weight loss of no more than 0.5% after 6 hours in a vacuum at 120 degrees Celsius and hit a super stringent energy density target of 500 watt-hours per kilogram. For the industry giants, this is their moment to flex. But for the smaller guys coasting on marketing hype, meeting the standards might mean a huge financial loss, and failing means total elimination. We're looking at industry concentration potentially shooting up to over 80%.
Okay, part 3, the spatial computing boom. How we interact with the digital world.
So, with our data locked down by AI and our devices powered by true solid-state batteries, what are we actually going to do with all this tech? Well, thanks to blazing fast, sub-10 millisecond 5G networks and massive leaps in shrinking down semiconductors, we're stepping right into the era of mixed reality. Let's break down the hardware market based on 2025 data. Head-mounted displays, or HMDs, are taking the lion's share at 42.5%. Why? Because they've had a solid decade of R&D and massive enterprise adoption. Next up, spatial computing headsets at 28.3%. These are your untethered, all-in-one with video pass-through and AI chips. Then smart glasses at 19.6%, which are getting way better thanks to new lightweight optics. And finally, holographic displays at 9.6%, which are mostly used in specialized fields like medical and defense.
But just watch how this snowballs over the next decade. We kicked off 2025 at about $152.5 billion, driven by this insane compound annual growth rate of 36.8%. We're looking at a market rocketing to nearly $400 billion by 2028 and breaking that staggering $2 trillion mark by 2034. That is a 13.7 times expansion in less than 10 years. It is literally one of the fastest growing segments in the entire global tech landscape right now.
But here's the real so what of all this. Why is all that money pouring in? Spoiler alert, it's not just consumer gaming. It's the tangible, real-world ROI in the enterprise sector. The single largest application right now is enterprise training and simulation. By ditching legacy paper manuals and boring classroom sessions for immersive, mixed reality workflows, companies are documenting a 40 to 70% reduction in the time it takes an employee to actually get competent at a complex task. Think about it. When one senior engineer can remotely guide a dozen junior techs across the globe using real-time holographic 3D, the productivity gains are just too massive for any business to ignore.
And because there's so much enterprise and consumer value on the table, we're watching a really fierce platform war unfold. Honestly, it feels a lot like the early days of the smartphone. 4 massive ecosystems are currently battling for the loyalty of over 8 million spatial developers. You've got Apple's Vision OS setting the premium benchmark for productivity. You've got Google and Samsung's Android XR pushing an open model to capture sheer volume. There's Meta Horizon OS leading the standalone headset space thanks to its huge gaming and social library. And finally, Microsoft's Windows Mixed Reality, leveraging its massive IT footprint for huge defense and manufacturing contracts.
Finally, Section 4, Navigating the Tech Horizon.
We've covered a ton of ground today, right? Moving from the invisible code of AI defenders to the strict new chemistry of solid-state batteries, all the way to the holographic lenses of spatial computing. But the most important thing to remember is that these 3 pillars aren't happening in a vacuum. They are deeply interconnected forces actively converging to reshape our world by 2026. The AI agents securing our data will run on processors powered by these next-gen batteries, which will in turn enable the hardware we need to render our new spatial environments. The future is arriving fast, and it definitely demands our attention. So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. As AI, solid-state power, and mixed reality converge right now, is your industry actually ready for the horizon? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.